What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast, guys. We're going to get into a reaction video. Let's dive right into it.
I keep seeing these clips of women trying to shame men that are in their 30s, maybe about to hit 40s, because these men are still saying they don't want to settle down. Have some of you women not realized that maybe you just don't make him want to settle down? Have you ever thought that maybe he has something going on? He has a built-in ecosystem that makes him happy, and what you're trying to bring into it doesn't really mix well with the ecosystem, that it might kill what he's created? You know, the same way women talk about, well, I don't need a man, I don't need you to come into my space and destroy the peace I've created. Have some of you thought that maybe these men think you're going to destroy the peace that they've created? Some of you can only think about yourself, and you're super selfish because you just think you can't be the issue and or you're not the problem. The same way women create an ecosystem of peace, men older in age have created an ecosystem of peace as well. But some of you have never been told you're not that girl, and you don't make him want to be in a relationship and or settle down.
Well, before we go ahead and react to that video, make sure you follow us on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, comment below, let us know what you think. Now let's go ahead and react to it. So this gentleman here is saying that there might be an issue with women thinking that settling down in your late 30s and 40s is a problem, that men have an ecosystem and women coming into that ecosystem could ruin it. What are your thoughts?
So I think he worded it perfectly. He addressed it very quick, short, and to the point. Women will point their fingers at guys that are in their 30s or 40s and say, oh, hey, look, he's still single or he's not married yet. You know, there must be something wrong with him. Or I've heard women say that, oh, men don't want to be men anymore. Women are always pointing fingers at guys, right? It's always going to be our fault. All the expectations on our end, they have extremely high standards, of course. Why wouldn't they, right? And the truth is, what he brought up in that video is that these women should stop and ask themselves, all of them should really stop and ask themselves, what is it about you that would have that guy bring you into his life permanently, get married with you and have a kid with you? How is joining with you going to look 5 years, 10 years down the line, right? And the truth is, most of these women, not all of them, but a lot of them are just not it. They do not fit into, like he described, an ecosystem. They do not fit into that man's life. And I think a lot of men now are kind of, like he said, they've created a lifestyle that fits for them: work, gym, their hobbies, hanging out with their friends, and they have that stability in their life. They have that peace in their life, and they do not want to completely have that go to shambles over a woman coming in.
He mentioned women not convincing men to want to settle down with them. Is there any truth to that? Is there any truth to women not getting men to be able to settle down with them?
Yeah, because, you know, nowadays, we've covered this many times, social media has bred these kind of narcissistic women that think they're hot shit, right? All they want to do is get as much attention as they can. They want to live this like carefree lifestyle and just travel, and like that's pretty much it, right? What is it about modern women that men would, you know, if you looks, obviously, right? We always go for looks. We always talk about that. Like, looks are the most important thing on a woman. Let's just be real, right? But when you take the looks out of the picture, what's left, right? If you look at her personality, her values, her lifestyle, who she hangs out with, what she's into, you know, her belief system, her attitude, that's the problem.
There's not much besides the looks. I mean, if we could make a list, you know, there's a few other things that we would like as men, but there isn't really much else that women bring to the table.
You know, it's funny because women shame guys all the time, like for saying, oh, all you guys care about is looks. That's all you care about. You're so shallow. Men are so shallow. All they care about is how good the woman looks and her body. But like I just said, if you were to take the looks and the body and everything else, the physical attraction out of the picture, you tell us what's left, okay? Even if we weren't attracted to just the looks and the beauty, what else are we supposed to be attracted to? Because I don't see it.
I don't see it either. And women say that, I don't need no man to come in and ruin my peace and all of that. Speaking of peace, which is something that men would like, do women tend to come in and make a man's peace worse or make it better?
You know something, even though obviously there's all different types of women and, they're not all the same, of course, 9 times out of 10, sooner or later, you're going to have some kind of drama or problems when you bring a woman into your life. If there's any man that's watching this that hasn't had some sort of drama or problems in his life, once he brought a woman into his life, I would like to hear that story. They are always going to bring some kind of problems. Women always come with problems. You're gonna get sooner or later, maybe not in the beginning. Sooner or later, you're gonna hear the nagging, the bitching, complaining. They're gonna start judging every aspect of your life, and they're gonna try to. And what women tend to do is they'll take a guy and they'll try to change him. You know what I mean? And not necessarily change him for the better, but change him into what would conform more into her version of what he should be, and that's where I think a lot of the problems start.
He was talking about this ecosystem that men have.
Yeah.
Let's say the majority of men, because we know that not all guys have it together. There's a handful of guys that do have to get their shit together. We get that. But do another majority of men have their quote-unquote ecosystem together where they don't want a woman to come and ruin it?
It's interesting because he mentioned specifically men that are between the ages of 30 and 40 or 35 and 45. I forget what he said. It's that specific age group where by that age, men usually, even if they don't have their life completely together, by that time of your life, you have gotten to a point where you are financially stable. Hopefully you're going to the gym and working out. You have your few select close friends. You have your hobbies, and that's what he's referring to as that ecosystem. It's like your day-to-day life is the way you want it to be. You have your good days, your bad days, but for the most part, it's pretty solid. The foundation's there. You have that peace in your life. And that is something that women need to understand. Men aren't willing to exchange that peace for anything, especially not you.
So we can say that men are more at peace single versus being with a woman.
Yes.
Because a lot of guys complain nowadays when women come in and they just freaking ruin everything. They just wreak havoc on everything.
Yeah.
While most of the time, guys are looking in the mirror. They're like, why did I get with this girl? She's just ruining
Sooner or later it
my
happens.
momentum, where I'm going. I'm trying to get somewhere here, and they're just coming in and ruining it.
Yes.
So there's guys now, to turn a little bit to the side a little bit. 35, 40, 45, is that a man's prime?
That is your prime because between the ages of let's just call it 18 and 25, you're young, unexperienced. You don't have any real life experience or work experience, relationship experience. That's like an experimental early learning phase of your life. 35 to 45, by then you have enough life experience. Hopefully you kept good care of yourself physically. That's your peak time of your life. You're not an old man. You're not a kid anymore. 35 to 45 is peak for men.
I agree. And women making a big deal about men not settling down in their 30s, mid-30s, 40s. Is that a big deal? Should men feel guilt for not settling down at that age?
Not at all, because you figure at that age you're in your prime. What choice do you have? You can risk it all and get involved with the wrong woman and have her completely screw the rest of your life. Because you keep in mind, especially if we're talking about like having a kid, that's 18 to 20 years. You're locked in. You can't reverse that, right? So I think men should be very careful and very selective with who they choose, and especially if you've made it to that age without having any massive problems in your life, knock on wood, you don't need a problematic woman in your life.
And women tend to cause problems more than ever nowadays, right?
Yeah, like he said in the video, women are always pointing fingers at guys, but I think women should really stop and forget guys for a second and really think about themselves. What is it about them that makes them so? Because you see it every single day. I mean, we all know by now. Every podcast talks about it. Women have very high expectations. Every male podcast has addressed that at some point. That modern women have extremely high standards and expectations. 80% of the women are going up to 20% of the guys. But those scenarios are usually very superficial and just sexual. They're not those 20. The top 20% of guys is just running through them. They're not it's not like 80% of the women are getting married and having kids with 20% of the guys. They're just sleeping with them. So let's just get that straight. So when women point fingers at guys that are 35 to 45 and saying, oh, well, you're not married and, you don't have kids and blah, 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 they're the other half to it. So, what about you? What are you going to add to this equation? Why should we, another way to put this, why should we interrupt that ecosystem as he described? Why should we risk having our life flipped upside down and having a chaotic lifestyle for you?
Isn't it women that don't tend to have it together? They're older. They're maybe a boss babe, but they don't have what they should have together to get a man to line up with them and be pretty much correlating together in the same direction to be able to have a relationship. Aren't those the type of women that tend to complain about guys not settling down, that they should have a family, get a house, get married, all that junk?
First of all, it's men that should be pointing fingers at women that are 35 to 45 that haven't had kids and settled down, because we don't have a biological clock, or eggs that stop being produced at a certain time. It's them that are on a timeline, not us. We could, what was the actor that just had a kid at the age of like 60?
I think it was De Niro.
De Niro, yeah. I just saw him post a picture, like, the guy's 60 years old. He's, it's not an ideal age to do it, but it just goes to show you that it can be done.
I think he's almost 80.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
So women are on a timeline, and if with all the amount of guys that are willing to give women attention and do things for women nowadays, I don't see how a woman could end up being 35 to 45 years old and still not lock in a guy. That just tells me that she has unrealistic expectations, or she's just too bitchy and she's too much of a pain in the ass for any guy to like stand her long term. There's something's wrong there.
Well, that goes to my next question. Are women in 2024 dateable? Without the exception, without the small exception, are most women dateable in 2024?
Most of them are not. Most of them are not. I mean, if we're talking about like serious commitment, long-term relationship, bringing a woman into your life, most of these women are not it. Their social media has killed dating. These women, I think, in general, have no respect for guys to begin with. That's something we didn't mention yet on this episode. Well, let's face it, a lot of women don't respect men in general, and they don't like, on top of it, they don't like most men. So they have this like really specific genre of guys that they're attracted to, that they want to go after. And if they get anything less, they consider that settling. I got news for those broads. You're going to have to settle. It's either you're going to stay single for the rest of your life, or you're going to have to settle, because I think a lot of these women live in a fantasy world, and they think because feminism told them certain things, and because they get a lot of attention on social media, that there's something special and that they're not going to settle until they get the best of the best. And that's not reality.
I think that women that have their mind straight when it comes to understanding men, understanding where men come from, what they have to do to lock in a man long term, I think they have the advantage over all those other women that are wasting time, that are becoming boss babes. They're complaining about men that, they suck and they don't want men to ruin their peace. They don't want to date men. They just want to whore around. I think those women that are smart about it, they're the ones who are going to win. They're going to get the cream of the crop in guys. They're going to get the best guys. So, to the ladies hearing this, if you are one who tends to play games and hook up with different guys and just waste time in your prime years, we're saying 21 to 25, maybe 26 years old, then, and you change, you're able to adjust and understand that if you do things the right way, you can lock in a good guy, then, you're going to win the lottery ticket with that. But for those women that just waste time, as I mentioned, waste time, whore around, play around, they play games, they complain, and time goes by and they get older and older and older, those are the women that are going to lose out.
The biggest lie that was sold to these women is this idea of like, men are trash, you do you, become independent, get your degree. And what happened is women kind of veered off of their purpose. And I could see how 10, 15 years can piss away. And then they realize like, shit, now what? Okay, great. You got your career and all your finances and your house. And like, I see a stat now that women are buying more houses than men. It's not about who's buying more houses. That's not what kind of a metric is that? Like, oh, women are buying more houses than men are. Who lives in that house? You know, you and your cat, you and your dog. Like, it's not about that. So I think women have been kind of veered off course by being sold these ridiculous ideas. And now, like you just said, they're going to hit a certain age and they're going to go, uh-oh. That's usually the age group where they start to realize, like, oh, shit, like, you know, I need to cut my bullshit and stop partying and stop jumping from guy to guy and actually settle down. But by then, it's usually too late. Not many men want to, like, you know, he mentioned disrupt the ecosystem. If you're going to do that, you're going to want to do it with a woman you're attracted to. And chances are it's not going to be some 40-year-old broad.
I mean, that's where we say women are more masculine nowadays because they're buying houses, buying cars, making a ton of money. Like, men give a shit about this stuff. Of course, we get women have to make a living. You got to live. You got to be able to, you know, get through life on a daily basis. We get that. But to show off that you have tons of money, that you're this high status executive woman, that you have 10 houses, that you have a Lamborghini, that you have all this shit. No man cares about that.
You know, it's good you brought that up because that's another misconception women have is they think that if they rise to that higher social status, that somehow will now qualify them to end up with a man that's higher than them. Oh, well, now I bought a house and I make my own money and I'm financially successful, so where's my successful man? Does not work that way. The opposite is true. If a man becomes successful and, you know, he's in the top, you know, let's just say 20%, he may be in a better chance to find somebody to date or marry, but it's not true for women. Men don't look at finances. We don't look at you having a career or a PhD as a plus at all. No offense to them, but that's just the truth. We don't care. We're more concerned with what? How they look. Do they bring peace into their life? Would they make a good girlfriend, wife, mother? And more importantly, how do they fit into our life?
And just like he said in the video, some girls haven't been told that they're not that girl.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they haven't been told to their face that they're not that girl. And then they, you know, they have these unrealistic expectations. They have this fake image of what their life should be with a man with regards to trying to come together with a man. That's why it's hard for them to get a man to settle down.
These women have such high egos now because of social media that even if you told them the truth, like, look, I know you look good, but aside from your looks, you're not at all dateable or marriage material. I don't think they would even understand it. I think they would either get offended or they wouldn't take it seriously. Like, what? There's all these guys hitting me up. Those guys are just trying to bang you. They're not trying to marry you.
That's it. All these guys want is just sex. That's it. And we know that that's something that women don't just want. They want the relationship. They want the keys to the castle. You know, they want the marriage and the house and the kids and everything. You're not going to get that by the way you're acting. You're not going to get him to want to settle down by those actions that you're taking. You know, and on top of that, women just have a nasty attitude, most of them. You know, when you have
a lot of them do, yes.
When you want a guy to ask you out and he comes up to you and he tries to ask you out and you give him shit for it, do you think he's going to want to come and ask you out again? No. He's going to just want to stop trying. And that's what most guys are doing. They stop trying. They're working on themselves, and I can't blame them one bit.
100%. And that's why, like, this whole problem that he's addressing in his video, it's a massive problem. I mean, how many podcasts at this point have come out? How many different social media content creators have spoken to this exact subject? It's not just us or like another couple of other people. Like, this is a massive problem. I don't know that there's an answer to it because I think women are only going to get worse from here. Maybe the next generation will be different, but by then it won't matter for us or anybody watching. But if we're talking about this current generation, this social media generation that we live in now, and modern women and feminism, the whole thing's a disaster. And long story short, the way women tend to generally be nowadays, this modern women way of living and that mindset, it's not what men want.
I think we're one of the few podcasts that are hitting it pretty head on.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some people kind of
beat around the bush.
Yeah. You know, beat around the bush and things like that. But we're telling you women that you can win if you do it the right way.
Yeah.
If you make yourself dateable. You can blend in with a guy that you want. Because, come on, us sitting here telling women that they can't get the guy that they want, that would be a lie. They can do it.
Yes.
It's very possible. But the way you're acting, the way you go about things in your life right now, that's not going to lead you towards the best man. That's going to lead you towards the worst guys. I mean, don't women mostly like players? Why? Because they're good in bed.
Men generally cannot stand nagging, complaining, nasty attitude from women. Those are the biggest turnoffs, red flags. Women always call it icks. Oh, the guy gave me an ick. That is the biggest ick. When you have a nasty attitude and you bring drama and problems into the guy's life, you nitpick every aspect of his life, complain all the time. I don't care how good you look. It's just a matter of time. No guy's going to be able to withstand that for a long period of time.
I think we answered that question I was going to ask you.
I don't know how much more directly to put it.
Why are so many women single in 2024? And I think we've just answered that question right there.
And you know, I don't believe that women don't know that they're acting this way. I think they're well aware of it. I think this is a time in history where women are kind of on their high horse right now, and you know they're liberated and free. So I understand like why it is the way it is now, because society, social media, it all has just boosted them up to a point where like they're just saying screw everyone, you know, middle finger to everyone, and we're just gonna do us and live our life the way we want. But I don't think they're aware of the consequence of it. They're gonna be faced with that consequence when they get older. I could see why a 25, 35-year-old woman is just going to say, screw guys, I'm just going to travel and sleep with whoever I want and have a body count of 100. I could see why they would do it. They're going to regret it when it comes time to the end of the day, because you can't tell me that you're going to do that when you're 45, 55, 65 years old. There's going to be a period of time where you're going to want to settle down. So
it's funny because I see a lot in the comments with women saying that they're okay being single at 45, 50, 60 years old.
I don't buy it.
But come on. Who are you fooling?
No, I think it's cope.
You're not fooling us.
No.
That's for sure. You know, you want to live in a lie? You know, that's your life, you know, and we wish each and every one of you the best. You know, we don't want you to, if you want to live on your own with your cat and dog, by all means, go get them, Tiger. But if you're able to recognize that you have an issue, if you're able to admit that you have the issue, that's where you can right when you can start fixing the problem.
You know, I just thought of this right now, like, and I think this needs to be addressed. The reality is, even though women have really high standards and they're extremely picky, a woman will always benefit from having a man in her life. Regardless of what he makes, how tall he is, what type of personality he has, a woman will always benefit in some way, shape, or form by having a man by her side. He's always going to be able to help you or do something for you in some way. The opposite, unfortunately, is not true. So I think that kind of like adds to what, or like supports what he's saying, is that a man at 35, 45, if he ends up not getting married or whatever, so be it. But like a woman, I can't see why a woman wouldn't want to have a man eventually by her side at all times, because he could protect you. He could help you around the house. Let's be real. Anytime something breaks, you know, the woman's always going to go to a guy. Anytime there's a serious problem, she's always going to call a man for advice or help. But if you just bring a random woman into your life, there's no guarantee you're going to get anything out of it. If anything, she'll bring in problems.
On social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, whatever, I tend to see a little bit more and more women complain about feminism. Why?
They're starting to wake up.
Some of them are starting to realize that it's not the guys that are the problem. It's them.
Yes, because they changed. Men have been the same since the beginning of time. Like, men don't change that much. We haven't had any movements on the male side. We're the same we were 10 years ago, 50 years ago. It's women that changed for the worse.
What did we want? Peace? A woman that is willing to be submissive. You know, if you're going to be the leader in the relationship, which women want a man to lead. They don't want to lead. So women want the men to lead. They have to be submissive. You know, sex and food at the dinner table. When they're out working, they come back home, some food, and what's wrong with that? They're going to say, oh, well, why should I cook for him? Well, you know, men should be saying, why should I go work a 9-to-5 job that I don't want to work for you?
And, you know, speaking of that, if she doesn't want to cook, clean, or do anything for you, what does she think is going to happen when she has a kid in the future? Like, I'm not saying you should baby your man or your boyfriend or whatever, but just think about that for a second. If you don't know how to cook, a lot of these broads don't know how to cook anymore. All they do is go to restaurants. What are you going to do when you do have a kid? You don't have those skills at all. Like you're going to learn or figure it out when that day comes. You know, they should learn those things now, but women aren't even focused on like feminine activities anymore. They're like, I see women now that are like boxing, doing MMA, riding motorcycles. They're like getting tattoos. Like they're becoming more and more masculine.
Statistica.com, almost 43% of U.S. women are never married. And
yeah, shocker.
Shocker, right? And Fortune.com, as of 2021, 3 years ago, 52% of women are unmarried or separated, which means what? That they're single. 52%.
And those women right there, without even knowing them, they're probably useless. They're probably useless. And in terms of a relationship, that's probably why. They never figured out how to keep a man happy and how to bring a man into their life and keep him there.
And they don't realize that they have a problem. They don't realize that guys are simple to please.
Yeah.
You know, again,
100%.
Sex is a small part of it. You know, there's a whole list of intimacy aspects that are part of a relationship. It's not just sex. And there's a bunch of other things. I mean, if you have an argument with a guy, he's going to be like, whoa, I don't need this. And there's going to be women that don't argue. He's going to try to go after those women.
Exactly. The less arguing, the less nagging there is, it's always going to be a massive plus, because most women, that's all they do is argue and complain, and they nag and they can't emotionally control. Like, it's okay for a woman to have emotions, we don't want to hear it every single time.
Last question. Is it better to be single as a man in 2024 or single as a woman in 2024?
Not only is it better, if you're a man, like he said, between 35 and 45, I suggest you stay single and leave most of these broads alone, because they're out of their mind. They are not girlfriend material. They're not wife material. They're not mother material. I don't know what material they are. Maybe OnlyFans material, but
how dare you?
That's truth, and that's facts right there. It gave you some stats. We gave you some real information from a guy's standpoint. So understand it, learn from it, get better, or fail in the dating market, and that's for women out there.
These are the harsh realities and truths of modern women.
Yeah. So we'll wrap it up here. Make sure you follow us on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Subscribe to the channel down below. Hit the notification button, like the video, and share the video. Comment below. Let us know what you think, good or bad. We understand. We know the situation here on YouTube. And let's keep pushing.